to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Crystal McLain, licensed clinical massage therapist, self-care coach, and artist who has dedicated her life to creating self-care independence. Please enjoy Crystal McLain. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Crystal McLain, a licensed massage therapist, self-care coach, and artist. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you join me to chat about creativity today. I have stalked you on Instagram and seen some of the fun artsy things that you do, and I love it. And I can't wait to chat more about all of that. But why don't you take a few moments to let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. I am a licensed massage therapist who kind of fell into doing massage therapy by accident. And it ended up saving my life on multiple levels. So that's really exciting. And then as years went through with doing massage therapy, I realized what I'm really passionate about is getting people excited about taking care of themselves. You know, I could patch them up in an hour, do the best that I could, but then they went back to their world and kind of, fudged things up again. So what I got really excited about is seeing people become empowered and doing their own maintenance. So that's why I decided to get into the self-care coaching, because, you don't need me. You just need yourself and you can figure it out. And that's what I'm excited about sharing with people. And the artist, art has just always been part of who I am, as something that is part of my mindfulness routine, as part of my entertainment and my fun. And I've come in and out of it, doing it professionally. And yeah, that's who I am.
I love it. And I mean, that's so great. And the self-care coaching, they do need you. They need you to get the kick in the tush to get started and facilitate it so that they can take it and move forward and grow and expand. But I love all of it.
Yeah. It's that whole give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for life thing,
Right. Got it. That's amazing. And I know before we were talking a little bit about your art and how over the course of your life, it has in kind of random ways been art that started for yourself, but other people took a deep interest in it. If you want to share a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I got commercial. No, my childhood had a lot of unsavory moments in it. And I used art, mostly drawing and painting, to escape in. And it was safe and it was easy and it was quiet and it's something I could kind of hide away in. And I moved when I was 21, I moved out to Alaska and I got a job at a coffee shop, and I would bring in my sketch pad. I'd go in an hour early if I had an afternoon shift, and I would just sit there, drink coffee and sketch in my sketch pads. And one of the owners noticed it and he said, you're really good. You should hang your stuff on the walls. And at first I'm like, okay, this is really exciting. But then when it came down to the reality of it, I actually felt like I was standing naked in the middle of the coffee shop and at the same time watching everybody look at me as I was serving them coffee all day. It was a bizarre feeling. It was like an out of body and totally internal experience.
And so
Anyway,
vulnerable. Oh my
so
gosh.
vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? God, and nobody likes being vulnerable. I especially did not like being vulnerable. I worked really, really hard to build a very tough exterior my whole life so I wouldn't experience feelings like this. And there I was, voluntarily exposing myself.
Yeah.
Damn. Anyway, so yeah, I had the show and I actually sold a bunch of pieces. And then I thought, okay, I can prostitute myself like this artistically. Sure, you want to see more? I'll, for a price, you can have more.
Yeah.
And really bad analogy, kids. Don't think of it that way. Anyway, I that kind of like slowly morphed into me doing more shows in places like coffee shops and little galleries, and then I started doing little art classes on the side. Nothing huge, just like 10 people signing up for like $50, and we're gonna learn how to do a series of paintings, blah blah blah. Anyway, and I talk about imposter syndrome because I never went to school for art. And here I am teaching people. So I was just totally faking it. I'd like to announce that I have legit credentials in the things that I do now, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, fast forward even further into the future, I was doing an art and craft show at a little at the rec center here in town, and this woman came up to me and she's like, I want to be your rep, I want to get you in shops, let's put these images on notebooks and greeting cards and all the things. I'm like, yes. I went back to that 21-year-old self that said, oh, people like my art, I'll give it to them for money. And then I'm like, yes, let's make it big because I am greedy and I want to buy a house and I want to whatever. Wah, wah. I hated it because I was doing art for things that I thought would be kitschy and fun and would sell well on the cover of a notebook, and not because I wanted to. Yeah. And so I quit. I dropped out of art for a while. And now I just do it for me. So if you go onto my Instagram, you'll see a bunch of arty stuff. That's for me. It's for you, as in like,
your viewing pleasure, but not your purchasing pleasure.
It's for your viewing pleasure and kind of your, I totally believe in leading by example. And, there are so many things in life that we restrict ourselves from doing because we're afraid of failing and being vulnerable and screwing up and being a beginner. I actually just wrote a blog about that, about being a beginner and, like it's scary. And if you're afraid of making a mess with some paints or doodling on a piece of paper, what else are you afraid of that could like make you grow even more? And so it's my way of just saying there are no rules. Like just practice, just allow yourself to be in this and see where it takes you, because it's those little skills of just showing up and letting go of your ego that really make you grow into an empowered person that can tackle the big shit when it comes.
Totally. Oh my gosh. I love all of the pieces, all of the stories, and so many. As you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many questions about like, how do you do that? What comes up for you? My little therapist mind clicked in and was like, oh my God, I want to know more about that. But first of all, what I really want to know is, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I've been thinking a lot about that. And to me, I feel like there's three pieces to that. The first thing to be creative is to let go of your inner critic and drop your ego and to just to see things as they are and not necessarily what you think they should be.
Right.
Or see them as right or wrong or good or bad. Right. So first, check the ego at the door. And then the next piece of creativity, I feel, is being curious.
Yes.
You know, and you know, we see things first. Our first reaction when we see something is we recognize it through the filter that we already know, right? But that curiosity breaks through that. It breaks past that and starts asking questions to that would challenge the things that you already know. So there's that curiosity. And then the other part I feel of creativity is experimentation and just, you know, there's a bit of science, I feel like, in creativity, you know, when you're trying to figure things out, whether if it's a painting, if you're trying to be creative with, you know, paints and paper or glue and wood or that, like tangible things, or if you're trying to be creative with your time, you know, and juggling. I'm not a mother, but I have a lot of friends who are parents right now, and they're having to homeschool their kids and do their job and be a human and figure out how to take care of themselves. And problem solving your schedule takes creativity. I feel like everything takes creativity.
Yes. And some things take a little bit more at different times in our life, for sure.
Yeah. So that's what creativity means to me. It means, checking the things that I think that I know at the door and being curious and investigative to what else there is and playing around with that.
Yeah. I mean, so much play, it sounds like, that you're talking about, that I hear as you're talking, of like, just get curious, play around with it, see what happens.
Absolutely.
Don't judge it. Let that ego take a vacation and see where it leads you.
Honestly, that's one of the things as the massage therapist that I've been forever. That's one of the biggest hurdles that I see with people. They come in with a problem. Let's say it's a shoulder, a tight shoulder. And, you know, they're rubbing where it hurts. Well, the first thing is that where it hurts is almost never the place that's the problem. Usually that's just referral pain. And so, you know, they have to look at their day. They have to see what they're doing with their bodies, what's possibly causing this. And then they have to play with movement. They have to experiment with stretches, deep breathing, you know, using different self-care tools and tricks. And a lot of them are so resistant to it because it's out of their wheelhouse. It's not it's out of their comfort zone. And so, you know, what's going to work for one guy is not going to work for the next, you know? And so it's all about have fun with it. Like turn on your music, get on the floor with your dog and
roll around.
Play around, roll around, like stretch, like see what happens. Like nobody's going to judge you. Nobody cares. Like
that's awesome. I was watching on Netflix, the Creative Brain documentary, and they were talking about, you know, how our brains are really designed to follow the path of least resistance. So when we have an injury, we go see someone to tell us what is wrong, path of least resistance. But when we step off the path of least resistance, risk failing and play and explore, that's where creativity shows up. So like you were saying, step off that path, roll around on the floor with your dog and stretch and see what you learn. And get creative, even in your pain, your physical pain. How can you explore creativity? And that, man, I just love that. That's awesome.
And I want to say something like, this is not something I'm just like pulling out of my pocket as a bunch of BS. Like I've actually had 2 very significant injuries in my life that left me unable to use my body. And like I've had severe nerve damage where I could barely hold on to anything. And as a massage, like I couldn't use my hands.
Wow.
And I went to a physical therapist for like 18 weeks. And, you know, as a massage therapist, you need your hands and they're handy just even if you're not a massage therapist. And, you know, I was doing all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. And I had to step out of that. Even as a massage therapist, I got stuck in that this is what I'm supposed to do. Well, clearly, if this is what I'm doing and it's not working, I need to go about this a different way.
Right.
So start experimenting, get creative, and
Yeah.
don't freak out about it. Try to enjoy yourself, because
Yeah.
stress just adds to everything.
Right. It exacerbates what already is happening. But I
Oh,
love this. I love, like, this is how you're facing creative challenges in your life. Like, you're going to try it this way. If that way doesn't work, you're going to be open, or you're open to trying it maybe a way that is off the beaten path or very
yeah,
different, and see what happens. So,
absolutely. Yeah. That's one of my big gripes about self-care is people will Google, self-care for anxiety,
mm,
self-care for depression, weight loss, flexibility, relationships, boundaries. They'll Google these things, right? And then they'll like kind of half-assed the suggested list of activities to deal with this department of your life.
yeah.
And that maybe worked for somebody else, but it may not work for you. We've all got our own equation. So you've got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
And not to sound discouraging, but your equation changes all the time.
Totally. Absolutely.
Like, what's working for me today may not work next week.
Or tomorrow, or later
tomorrow,
today.
right?
I think that's the biggest thing. I think today is going to be great. And then shit hits the fan, and nope, that's going to turn around. Okay. Excellent. Gotta roll with it, go with the flow, be open, and get creative. And that's the thing. Like, that's where I think creativity can really step in and offer a unique perspective, or a way to look at a situation through that lens of creativity, to say, okay, how can I move forward in this moment with creative thinking or creative expression? So nice. Well, you have talked about childhood drawing or art being really prolific for you and supportive, but what's your earliest memory of being creative? Tough questions.
It is a tough question, because for as long as I can remember, I've just, coloring books, Play-Doh, like when does it really start? Because it's always, even when I didn't have that sort of thing, I've always been the kid that would go try to stack rocks or paint, build pictures out of stuff in nature, I draw pictures in the sand. It's all, I think just as a kid in general, I was kind of creative. And so to think of my first creative memory, that's hard for me. But I think one of the first times that I realized that I had talent or that I was onto something was there was a contest. God. So I was born in 1978. For you listeners, I am almost 43 years old. And back in the day, it was okay to tell kids that they were fat and have things sponsored by places like I probably shouldn't say a brand name on here, should I? There was a weight loss program, a very specific weight loss program that was sponsoring this like healthy kid thing. And ironically, I was a super fat kid, and I won this poster challenge of like, you had to draw a picture of something healthy, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And I drew a bunch of dancing fruits and vegetables.
Oh,
I think I was in like third grade or something.
Yeah.
Dancing bananas and such. Anyway, so weird. And my art's not that much different now.
These stories are just so unique. Everyone has like such incredible, unique stories that when they sift back through their memories of like being creative and hearing you, like, ultimately the earth was your canvas. If you're like drawing in the sand and creating pictures, and I love it.
Yeah. So I think because I won this drawing thing, it was like, oh, I'll use this someday. No.
Yeah. Some validation of like, oh,
Right.
here's something that people are giving me some credit for.
Right. It was
Yeah.
the one thing that I felt like I was good at
Mm,
in a world of not feeling good,
yeah.
in a sea of zero self-esteem as a
Mm,
kid,
yeah.
art was like the thing. I was funny and I could draw good.
I mean, it's amazing when we kind of sift back through our life the things that not only did we tell ourselves, but that we're being told by other people and the things we hang on to. And I think for many people, it sounds like this may not have been your case, but for many people, the art or the creative piece is what is squashed.
Right.
And as adults, it's like, oh no, I'm not creative. I could never. I'm
Right.
a terrible writer, a terrible drawer. I would never ever speak in public, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But to think like, wow, that creativity piece was,
It was my life ring.
yeah, it may not, people may not have paid attention to it, but for you,
Right.
no one said, oh, you're terrible at it. You were getting that feedback of like, no, this is something that you're good at and keep
Right.
doing it.
And this conversation is making me realize something kind of profound in my own life. I don't know if it would apply to anybody else, but you were just saying that so many people that get squashed, creativity gets squashed
Mhm.
as kids get older.
Yeah.
And for me, it was something that I saw myself as being pretty good at, and it was kind of my survival piece. But the more I put it in the public, and the more I looked for praise, the less I liked it and the less
Mm.
therapeutic it became for me.
Yeah.
And so, um, and I kind of made the shift about a year ago where it was always about making things look realistic. I really liked painting things that looked realistic. And when I got commercial, I'm like, screw this. Like, I'm done. Like, and I just like doing abstract stuff now.
Mm.
It's more therapeutic. So,
Yeah.
for those people who felt like it got squashed, like it doesn't have to look good. It
And it's
just
not
has to.
for anyone else, right?
No, it's about the process. It's
Yes.
about using it as a mindful process. It's a way to process feelings and emotions and just get the chatter out of your head. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to look good. It's better if
Right.
it doesn't look good.
I love
Too
it.
much, like we're seeing life with too many filters, like we're
Yes. Oh.
too obsessed with things looking perfect and looking right and being whatever. Enough
Mhm.
of that. Enough of that.
Absolutely.
Go make a mess.
I love it. I mean, like in grad school, I remember doing an art project for a class and like finger painting, and that was the most free I had felt in I mean, grad school was very challenging and super stressful, but finger painting was such an escape and such a release and so calming and soothing to my nervous system. So
Right?
everyone go finger paint because
Right?
it's awesome.
Once you get your body involved in something, like
Yes.
it's like there's usually a tool that disconnects between
Mm.
you and the thing that you're creating. But when
Mhm.
you get your fingers in the paint,
Oh,
you are the brush.
be the brush. Oh my gosh, I love it. This is amazing. So we could just keep talking about all of this. It's so
Right?
juicy. I love it. But I want to know, I feel like, I hear that nature inspires you or your own imagination inspires you, but are there other things or people who are currently inspiring you in your life right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got kind of like a standby inspiration, my little artistic and human hero, just general human hero. I think most of us have that person that's our guru. And that's Frida Kahlo,
Mm,
because
nice.
talk about a busted life, like in every sense of the word, a busted life, and using her creativity for actual healing and prosperity and all the things. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't know who Frida Kahlo is, oh my God, go Google her. She's amazing. So she's kind of like my person that I put up on a pedestal in the creative world and just how to, go about life fearlessly. And then honestly, I'm infinitely inspired by regular people who are showing up and trying to go outside of their comfort zone, trying to go outside of their box, and there's so much of that. If you really like, social media can get kind of weird and flashy and full of illusions. But if you look at that and you realize that that is an actual human being who's striving to bring something to their life, be it connection or worth or what have you, like that, I find the collective human struggle very inspiring. I really do. Because we are all suffering in some sort of way. And I feel like that is gorgeous, because we're not alone. And yet we're all doing something, whether if it's healthy or not, or brings your intention into fruition or not. Like, we're all trying to do the best we can.
Yeah. And that common humanity.
I love it. I am inspired by that. And there are times where I will pull out an art journal and I'll just start thinking about that, and I'll cry and I'll get ugly, and sometimes I get angry and frustrated for people. And like, I make it ugly, and whatever it is that I'm feeling, I put it on the paper, and then I do something with that. I create more space by painting over it. And I write words that are inspiring and calming and soothing and loving and nurturing. And I just turn it into something that's, to me, a little more beautiful. It's like I take human suffering and I make it pretty.
You transform it. That's that transformation experience is huge.
Absolutely. And it's so cathartic and therapeutic. And whenever I'm feeling like, F this, I can't, 2020, man, there was a lot of painting going on, when you just feel like it's too much, like, put the ugly down on paper and then paint over it and just take back the power.
Yeah, it is heavy to hold all of that, for sure. And not that we can't hold it, but fuck, let's set it down. Yeah, let's lighten the load a bit. Share it. Even if it's just sharing it with a piece of paper. That in and of itself is sharing the burden or sharing the weight of it. I love that. And what a great reminder to people that it doesn't have to look a certain way. It can be ugly. It can be messy. It can be what you feel or what you think, or the words that are coming up, and writing it down or putting it on paper in some fashion. That's enough. It doesn't have to be this perfect in a box experience.
Oh my God, light and composition and form and puke. No, thank you.
Puke.
I'm over it.
Oh my goodness. This is amazing. I love it. But I'm curious, yes, 2020 was, as many people call it, a dumpster fire, a challenging year.
It was eventful.
It was full of events and all of the things. But I imagine, just in everyday life, even when it isn't 2020, we experience kind of everyday issues. What are some of the everyday issues that you have used creativity to solve?
Getting out of bed? No.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. For me personally, just because I am doing massage, which is very different in a pandemic world.
Right.
A 3-hour day translates to almost an 8-hour day. 3 client day turns into almost an 8-hour day. And And then taking the fundamental elements of the massage therapy and the coaching, which is really just, self-empowerment and self-awareness and positive mindset and being proactive in your own wellness, taking that and translating it into kind of this new online business that I'm doing, juggling all of those things plus my own self-care is very creative. Like I have to be very creative about how I balance all the things. And so
that makes sense. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, having to transition anything from in-person to online, you got to get creative in how to do that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And just everything, like I feel like changing the schedule, just changing the schedule alone, we program our brains to do things a certain way. And then all of a sudden you get thrown a 180 and that doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And the more we resist that change, the crazier we make ourselves, right? The more we hate it and resent it. But sometimes that's just how it is. That's just how life is. Like, right. So you have to adapt. You can either keep headbutting it or you can be creative and figure out a new way that works with your new circumstance.
Absolutely. Great reminder. Good, right. Good things to remember when we feel like we're hitting that brick wall. How can creativity support us in this moment to look at it from a different angle or step back and say, okay, what's not working? Let me get some problem solving, creative ideas flowing.
Yes. And so that daily, nice. I am calling on that.
I love it. Well, oh my goodness. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours about all these fun, creative things, but I just have one final question for you. And that is, what is your secret to creativity?
My secret to creativity is honestly movement.
Gosh, I love that.
Movement. I whenever I'm feeling stuck, mentally stuck, because let's be honest, creativity is mostly a mental thing. And there are times where I feel like my brain has flatlined and I just can't problem solve, or I've got this, it's weird. Like I feel like I want to be artistic, but I sit there and it's just crickets in my head. And do you ever get that? Like, I want to do this thing. And then you finally gather your materials and you're like, damn, I got nothing.
Anyway. That's happening right now for me in like recording a mindfulness series, and I'll get my sound all set up and I sit there and I'm like, what am I going to say?
Tumbleweeds.
Nothing. Got nothing. Yeah. So I totally get it. Yeah.
I guess I'll play Words with Friends instead.
Right. No. Best fiends. Here we go. Yeah.
Right. And so, I find, I cut off all my social media and I turn on music, or sometimes I don't turn on music. And because right now it's literally like 5 degrees outside and I'm not going to move outside because I am a weenie. My living space is very small, and if I take small strides, I've got 6 steps. If I take big strides, I take 6 steps. If I take small strides, I've got 8 between back and forth. That's how far I can walk. And I will literally pace back and forth and not think of anything. I will intentionally not think of anything. And if something like, oh, what am I going to have for dinner pops in my brain, shoo it away. I shoo it away. And I keep a notebook out and a pen. And eventually the real ideas come, but I have to move my body. And that's how I call on the creative gods.
That's amazing. No, I mean, movement for me is so important. It's such a huge part of my life. For me, it's like turning on music and dancing and moving however the music moves me or however I'm feeling in that moment to shake off a day or get into a different headspace or find a creative spark that, hasn't come with me sitting and staring at a computer screen.
Right.
So,
Well, and I think that's why it dies when we sit down, because literally our brain, our brains are like batteries, they're full of energy, and they're literally making everything in the body happen. Like your muscles, all of your muscle movement, boom, it's actual electricity being sent throughout your body to make things happen. Electricity is happening to make your thoughts happen. And when you're moving, it's like your car, right? Like it just keeps the battery going. But if it sits too long, like it dies.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to recharge your brain battery by
moving your body.
Your booty.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. And if people want to learn more about what you do and how to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
If they are on Instagram, they can type in the handle Crystal McLain Creative. And if they're on the interwebs, they can also just Google Crystal McLain Creative.com. I'm just Crystal McLain Creative.
And I love it. Perfect. Yeah. And that'll be in the show notes so people can easily access and click away and find all the cool things that you're offering and your self-care coaching and all of the additional delights that you have out in the world. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me. It has been so much fun.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been a blast.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.